Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you so much for joining Astrology for Mystics. I am your host, Jennifer Jennings, intuitive astrologer. We are going to be discussing the full moon in Virgo, the lunar eclipse that has taken place on March 13th and 14th, depending on where you live. This is an intense time period that we are going to be going through over the next 18 months while the North Node is in Pisces and the South Node is in Virgo. Wow, it's big. It's all about the trade wars. It's about the internet. There is a lot of things going on in the world. You know, we're going to be having leaders pass away. This is an intense period where we are going to be isolated. We are going to feel very tired. We're going to feel worn out. This is a time period that's going to be dealing with prisons and hospitals a lot, because that's what Pisces is. It's about giving of service. It's about prisons and hospitals, God, the internal, the spiritual. It's a time for introspection. In this video, I'm going to be doing a forecast for all the rising signs. So if you rise in Aries, then you will want to pay attention to the forecast for Aries, because that is where it is going to be hitting your life path, your ascendant. The first house is the I am. And so if you rise in Aries, if you rise in Taurus, if you rise in Gemini, you will want to pay attention to this forecast. I'm going to do all 12 signs, okay? Before I begin with the rising sign, I do want to emphasize the Virgo Pisces axis. The moon is going to be reflecting our health, our well-being, our everyday life. We are going to be having Mercury in retrograde. We are going to be having Venus in retrograde. There's a lot of reworking of the past. And again, it's all about our well-being. This full moon is going to be in a good standing with Vesta, the flame of life. It's going to be in a good standing with Uranus. But that doesn't always mean that it's going to work out the way that we want it to. Uranus is going to be bringing abrupt changes. Okay? It's going to be bringing abrupt changes with the way that we connect, the way that we relate with one another online. The Virgo full moon is going to be reflecting organization, fitness. Everybody wants to have that summer body. That is going to be something that we are all going to be focused on. We want to get out in the sun, garden, setting new health routines. The way that Virgo gives service is practical. The way that Pisces gives service can be elusive. It can be dreamy. It can be spiritual. All right, so let's start reading the rising signs. Let the fun begin. Aries, risers, this Virgo moon is going to be taking place in your 6th house of health, your everyday. It's about your job, your romance. This moon is reflecting a job. Maybe you've just got a new job. Maybe that job is in healthcare. Maybe you want to get a new job in healthcare. Either way, this is reflecting your health, your well-being. Aries, the sun is going to be shining in your 12th house. Things of the past. There is a lot of fear here with Saturn in the 12th house. There's a lot of energy with Ceres in the 12th house. The lunar node is here. There is an emphasis, especially with you, Aries, with the healthcare. Uranus is in your 2nd house of income, your values, the networking. Maybe you are networking with a job, and that is how you are bringing in money. Uranus is in a good standing with the moon. So is Vesta, the flame of life, that is showing up in the 8th house during this reading with you, Aries risers. The flame of life is reigniting shared resources, shared money. Apollo is there. There's a lot of wisdom. There is some disordered aggression with relationships, perhaps having to do with taxes, with this 7th and 8th house reigniting of a flame with Vesta there in the 8th house. But there is disordered aggression, intensity that is surrounding relationships. Juno is also showing up here in the 9th house. I'm sorry, I was going to say 10th. It's showing up in the 9th house here. Juno is about a relationship. It could have something to do with the blood if you are working in the medical field, with a relationship. There could be something going on with a long travel. Mars is showing up in the 4th house of home. There could be some independence with mom. There could be some independence with home. Your home life and your work life are in an opposition. Whatever is coming to you right now, whatever is coming to any of us right now, it's important that we understand it's for us. It's for us to move forward in the future. Aries, you definitely want to find some type of balance between your home and your work, your family. Mars showing up here in the 4th house of home at an 1845 degree. There's a lot of weight. There's a lot of weight with family, with genealogy. So be mindful of that. And good luck, Aries. Please let me know in the comments what you are going through. Talk to me about it. And if need be, reach out to me and visit my stand store and pick out your reading. Otherwise, just make sure that you find that balance. Think things through. Don't be very hasty with your money. Manage your money. Discipline yourself. Because money could be here, money could be there, but it's all going to work itself out. No need to be anxious or depressed. Stay in the now moment, Aries. Good luck. Now for my Taurus risers. Hey, how's it going? For you guys, you are going to experience this full moon, this lunar eclipse in your 5th house, in your 5th house of creativity. This is a playful house. This is the house of children. This is the house of competition. Taurus risers, you guys are going to experience the sun in an opposition in the 11th house, how you bring in money, your friend group. There's boundaries that you are setting with your friend group, and maybe there's a little bit less partying. The sun and Saturn, the North Node, all of that is in your 11th house. It's your hopes and your wishes, your dreams, your future. There are friend groups that you are pulling away from, and that's a good thing. You just don't want to revert back during this time period. And there is a need for you, Taurus risers, to be able to manage your money better, and be mindful with Jupiter. Jupiter is in your 2nd house, and it's expanding the communications, possibly with the law enforcement. And this is going to go back to the moon, to the playful time, to the time where you've been before with the health factor and Jupiter. So be mindful of that. Uranus is going to be in the 1st house. It's going to be shaking things up with your life path, with your values. Anything networking is really good. It's really good for you. It's in a good standing. Vesta is in the 7th house. There is a reigniting of a flame here. Be mindful of any type of relationships that are going to come back. Maybe there is a relationship that has a shared resource, something that has to do with the law, and they're coming back to you and saying, hey, what about this? Can we settle up? Mars is in the third house of communications. Could be about a vehicle. Mars in your third house at an 1846 is going to be showing up with your communications, neighbors, neighborhood. Could be about a home. Could be about genealogy and your siblings, cousins. The dark moon is in your sixth house of health, your everyday. Maybe you are reflecting on your health regimen, or could be disordered aggression with relationships at your job. Possibly things going on with your job. There's like this wake up call because Pallas is there in the 10th house, and there is a wake up call. And this wake up call could even be in your ninth house of travel. Either way, it's having to do with groups, and it's possibly having to do with your father, because that 10th house is also about the father. It's about your public image as well. With the lunar nodes in Pisces and Virgo, we have to be mindful of our health. We definitely have to be mindful of our addictions too. That's with all of us. For you, it would be with your friend group. It would definitely be with your friend group, and your friend group could be slowing you down. And that is where you are reflecting. For you, Taurus and Taurus risers, self discipline is key for you right now. If you would like a reading, book a session with me. Book a session with me. They're 2 hours long. You can click on the link below. It's easy breezy. Otherwise, just be mindful, and be mindful of your playtime as well. You want to balance. Balance is key as well. Good luck. Now for my Gemini risers. Hello, Gemini. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be taking place in your fourth house of home. This is all about home, family, genealogy, mom. This is where you've been. And this health factor that comes in at home can definitely have to do with things that you enjoy doing at home. Maybe you are remodeling. Maybe you are looking at bids for something that you need to be taken care of at home. The sun is going to be shining in your 10th house. This is about work. It's about your father. It's about your public image. There could be things that are going to be coming out about your public image, about your father. Saturn requires responsibility, accountability. And so this is pertinent for your work right now. Your social status and your work are going hand in hand. Uranus does trine the moon in the fourth house of home. Uranus is in the 12th house in Taurus. Shaking things up from the past, shaking that unconscious state up, giving you intuitive flashes. If there is anything going on with you, Gemini risers in the medical, then it would be the ears, nose, and throat. That is what my observation shows with the sign of Taurus. And so if there's any shakeup, you could be having some sinus problems right now. Gemini risers, Jupiter is in that first house, expanding your life path. It's expanding communications, perhaps with the law enforcement. Right now, you have a larger than life presence. The thing about Jupiter being in that first house is you want to make sure that you are focused instead of going from one thing to the other. Just stay focused. Juno and Astria is in that 7th house of relationships. And so you could be getting a conscious raising experience from a relationship that you are learning. There's things that you are learning about with this relationship. Vesta is in the 6th house of health and your everyday, your work. There's a reigniting of a flame with anything that you are investigating, anything that you are having a shared resource with. Vesta not only reignites a flame, but it also can extinguish this flame and put it out. Long travels, a higher learning, that is what has taken place in your 9th house. There's a wake-up call. There's a transformation with groups. It's possible that you will be meeting new associations. The groups that you used to be affiliated with, maybe there are new groups that you are going to be affiliated with in the next month or so. Your values and communication with Venus and Mercury is in the 11th house of groups. That's where your values are. It's also where you're going to be or are sharing pain with groups. Mercury is about communications. There could be things going on with the electricity. There could be things going on with the internet. Mars is in the second house of values. And so there is a lot of energy. There's a lot of passion. There's a lot of aggression there at home with your values at home. Again, we could be thinking in terms of gardening, doing things around the house, taking action now that it is going to be warmer outside. Disordered aggression is with the dark moon there in your fifth house of children, the way that you create with relationships, with the law, with contracts. The dark moon is there for you to push you forward, letting go of things that you cannot control. But that dark moon can definitely work for you and not against you. Good luck, Geminis. Hello, my intuitive Cancerians. Those of you who rise in Cancer, this full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be taking place in your third house of communications, your siblings, childhood friends, cousins. You're going to be reflecting on their health, on the health of your neighborhood, communications, where you've been, conversations that have already been had over and over and over again. The sun is going to be shining in Pisces, conjunct Saturn, Ceres, the North Node, Neptune, all in your ninth house of travel, higher learning. This is really where you're having to put in a lot of work, Cancers. You're limited of where you can travel to. There's a lot of work going into a higher learning. Maybe you need a certificate. Maybe you need something that can push you forward with work, because that is where Venus and Mercury is. It's also where Chiron is. And so there's some pain there with your employment. The 11th house is where Uranus is sitting. Uranus being in the 11th house is shaking things up with money, with friend groups, with networking, with video. Jupiter is expanding the 12th house. It is expanding your communications, things from the past with the law enforcement. Your dream state is going to be very busy. Mars is bringing a lot of action to your life path right now with your mother, with your home life, with loyalty. There's a lot of weight for you right now, Cancers, and it's okay. This too shall pass. The dark moon is transiting that fourth house of home, and it is about your home. It is about your genealogy, your mom, contracts, the law. Vesta being in your fifth house of kids and creativity, the competitive house. Vesta is reigniting a flame, things that are hidden with children. Could be about hidden sex, other people's money, shared resources with your children. There's a relationship with Juno there in that sixth house. It's about long travels. Relationships are giving you a conscious raising experience. In medical astrology, the Sagittarius energy could be about the blood. Maybe you need to get your blood checked. There is a divine justice with your everyday, because Astrea is also there, showing up in your sixth house of health and your everyday, your work, your job, your romance. Pallas is shaking things up in the eighth house with shared resources, with the internet, with groups. There's a humanitarian feel that I'm getting with you, Cancerians, those of you that rise in Cancer. There's a lot of transformation with Pluto there as well in the eighth house. Lots of transformation is taking place with you. The desires that you have with Cupid, there in the seventh house of relationships and partnerships is demanding work, responsibility, accountability. And so your desires for more structure, to be an authority, whatever is going on with you, Cancer risers, just know that work may require a higher learning. So go get you that certificate. Good luck. Hello, my noble Leo risers. This full moon, this lunar eclipse, is going to be taking place in your second house. Your second house is about values, things that you own, things that you possess. You are going to be reflecting on those values. The Sun, Saturn, Ceres, North Node, Neptune is all showing up in your eighth house. The eighth house is about shared resources, it's about investigations, things that are hidden. Medically, there could be things going on that are hidden, like with your prostate or the reproductive system. No matter what it is that Saturn is limiting you there with work, it's very spiritual. Saturn is calling on you to have more of a spiritual essence and incorporate the all rather than just you. Mars in that 12th house is shaking things up with your dream state. There's a lot of action going on that could be causing you some fear about what is hidden with God. Prisons and hospitals, that could be something that you are visiting with whatever it is that you are putting this action into with Mars. Jupiter is showing up there in that 11th house, how you bring in money. It is expanding your communications there with the law enforcement, possibly contracts, but there's an expansive nature that you are taking with groups right now and how you are going to bring in money with groups and this expansion. Things are going on with your job. Money's here, money's there. Uranus and Taurus is shaking up the money, honey. Courts, possibly long travels, things that you are learning is where Venus and Mercury is offering you communications from the past. Values are showing up from the past. It's also where you are sharing pain because Chiron is also there in the ninth house. And Chiron is offering you a way in which to heal. Maybe you are traveling for this healing. Maybe you are traveling somewhere to get therapy. Maybe you're sharing your pain with a therapist. Your relationships, partnerships, they are transforming because Pallas is there in your seventh house, and so is Pluto. Pluto is also there with your relationships and your partnerships. They are offering you a chance to have new associations, new networking capabilities. The dark moon in the third house is about your siblings. It's about your cousins, your communications, your neighborhood, your neighbors. You could have disordered aggression with your relationships, especially with the law and contracts. The fourth house of home is where things that are hidden that is going on with your mother at your home or at a home. Maybe you are investigating. Maybe you're an investigator and you're investigating a home crime, or you are investigating things going on that is constantly reigniting a flame because Vesta in Scorpio is reigniting this flame at home. The way that you are creating, Juno is showing up there in the fifth house, and it is offering you a new relationship. There is a new relationship that you are learning from. There is also divine justice because Astrea in Sagittarius is in that fifth house as well at a 1941 degree. Astrea brings justice. justice with children, with the way that you are creating the competitiveness about you. Sagittarius can also be about the radio waves. Maybe you are creating with the radio waves. But whatever is going on with you at work, this is a time period that is going to enable you to attract new associations and a new way to bring in money. Good luck, Leos. Hello to my practical Virgos and Virgo risers. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be showing up in your first house. It's all about the life path. The South Node is also here, and we are going to be looking to where the sun is. The sun is shining in the 7th house of your relationships and your partnerships. This is about hospitals, giving of service. Saturn being here in your 7th house of relationships is showing that there is a slowdown. It could be possibly slowdowns with partnerships and relationships having to do with their health. Maybe you are in healthcare. Regardless, this time period is calling on you to be giving of service. Possibly things going on with your values and your possessions, things that you own, perhaps with the government or with the law, contracts. Because the dark moon is showing up there in your 2nd house of values. The dark moon wants to push you forward. Vesta showing up in the 3rd house is about communications. Perhaps you are communicating again with someone that you have communicated with in the past. Could be about your siblings, your neighbors, your cousins, people that you grew up with, childhood friends. There's a reigniting of a flame here. Possibly to do with things that are hidden, other people's money and shared resources. The relationship with Juno in Sagittarius in your 4th house of home is about a relationship at home, a relationship with mom. There's definitely a higher learning here. Maybe you're working from home. Maybe there is something to do with your mom and her blood work. There is definitely a divine justice, though, that has taken place at a home, with Astrea being in Sagittarius. They're at 1942 degree. She has definitely taken you higher, this higher learning. Maybe it's a certificate or a higher learning course that you are taking or that you need to take. Your desires with responsibility and accountability is the way that you are creating, as Cupid is showing up in the 5th house. The 5th house is about creativity. It's about competition. Your playtime. Maybe there's just not a whole lot of playtime. Maybe you are taking care of your father's estate. Maybe you are working with children, and this has to do with their education. Mars in your 11th house is giving you a lot of drive. Maybe this is about home health care, because Mars in Cancer is about home. And if you are bringing in money with this 11th house of home, it could be about real estate. It could be about genealogy. But there's a lot of action going here with your friend group and the way that you bring in money with Mars in Cancer. Jupiter is expanding. Jupiter is expanding communications at work, having to do possibly with the law, contracts. The communications at work is all over the place. Maybe there's just a lot of juvenile discussions that are taking place that are expanding themselves as Jupiter is sitting here in this 10th house. The 10th house is also about your social status of fame, your public image. Maybe your job is a technician, an installation technician. Maybe you are working with electricity, the electrical field. Whatever this is that Jupiter is expanding, it is expanding and giving you a lot of wealth and optimism here with work. Uranus in the 9th house in Taurus is shaking things up with a higher learning, with your education, with the courts. Long travels are being shaken up. Possibly you are receiving money from groups and networks, to go on a long trip, to further your education. Venus and Mercury in the 8th house. Venus is in retrograde. Mars is about to go retrograde. This is about things of the past, what you value, things that are hidden in that 8th house with shared resources. It's also where you are sharing pain because Chiron is sitting there, possibly to do with the occult, with astrology, things that are hidden there in that 8th house of death, rebirth, and regeneration. Maybe one of your patients is sick. Maybe you're struggling with one of your patients being sick. Talking to God, questioning God in that 8th house. In the 6th house of health, you are receiving a shakeup, a little shakeup with Pallas. And there's a lot of transformation because Pallas and Pluto there in Aquarius is in conversation. They are conjunct. They are in close proximity to one another in degree. There's a shakeup for the communications in the future with healthcare. Whatever is going on at this time with you, Virgo risers, you are not alone. We're all going through it together. And if you need a special ear to talk to and you need some guidance, double click this link below and book a session with me. Good luck. Hello to my diplomatic Libras. Those of you who rise in Libra, this full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be taking place in your 12th house. Things of the past. Your dream state is on fire. But you've been here before. You've been here before, and this is where you are learning about fitness, health, because the sun is shining there in your 6th house of health. The North Node is there, Neptune is there, and so is Saturn. Saturn is challenging you with your everyday, with your health and the relationships, the laws, the government. Maybe you have been laid off if you are a worker in the public eye, like a public servant, a government worker. Mars in the 10th house of Cancer is showing that there is a lot of action going with home and work and mom and dad. There is this balance that you are finding or that you are trying to find. But all the weight with Mars and this action that is taking place at work, it could be that you are moving to your home to work, moving your office home to work. Jupiter is expanding communications in your 9th house of long travel and higher learning, philosophy. Maybe you are writing. Maybe you are choosing to write at home, and it is about philosophy, your philosophy of life. Uranus is shaking things up in the 8th house of shared resources, death, rebirth, and regeneration. There is a shakeup here, and it has to do with the ears, nose, and throat, with the community, with the networking. Maybe you are studying how to be a better gardener with Uranus here in the 8th house. You are sharing pain with groups as Chiron is showing up there in the 7th house, along with Venus and Mercury. Relationships from the past could be bringing you pain. Humanitarian values are shaking you up with Pallas, and networking with groups. Pallas is shaking you up there, working with groups, and maybe a group home with children, something having to do with children, something having to do with the way that you are creating with groups. Maybe it has something to do with charity or homelessness. Desires for you with Cupid is where all of the structure, responsibility, and accountability is taking place. Maybe you are fixing things around the house You are calling on other people to help you fix things around the house that has an authority. Juno in the third house is bringing you conscious raising experiences, maybe with your siblings, your childhood friends, your neighbors, where you went to school, your childhood friends. These relationships are bringing a divine justice with how you are communicating or how you are writing. And there is a flame of life that is showing up in your second house of values, shared resources. The dark moon is in your first house in your life path. It could be that Libra risers are having a hard time with relationships and balancing the relationships in your life and contracts, because the dark moon will push you forward when it comes to the letter of the law. Whatever is going on with you, Libra and Libra risers, feel free to leave a comment. Let me know how it's going. And if you need a guided touch, double click on the link below. All right. Good luck. Hello, my intense Scorpio and Scorpio risers. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be taking place in your 11th house of groups. How you bring in money. You're going to be reflecting on healthcare with your job. You are going to be reflecting on all of the information that you are receiving from groups. And the sun is going to be shining in the 5th house of kids and creativity. Saturn is limiting you in how you are creating with competition. Could be one of your children or grandchildren is going into healthcare and they are in need of extra money, either to further their studies or to buy the clothing that they need to work. Mars in the 9th house is bringing in a lot of action. And it could be that that is also where there is shared resources, because you rise with shared resources. That's what you are known for. And these shared resources with Mars there in the 9th house could be about education, a higher education that is needed or is being sought. Uranus is shaking things up with your friend group, with money, resources, things that you own, things that you possess. Friends could be having issues going on with their health. Venus is in conversation in Aries in your 6th house of health and your everyday, your job. That's also where Chiron is. This is where you are sharing pain. Groups and networking is very transformative at home right now. There's a lot of things that are going on at home with groups, with where you live. Pallas and Pluto and Aquarius is not only transforming, but there is also investigative measures that is being taken. Maybe things are going on with your electrical in the house and you just don't know where it's stemming from, but there is a transformation that has taken place for the future. Could have to do with your mother. Vesta in your 1st house with your life path is about shared resources being reignited. There's a reigniting of a flame with Vesta. Sometimes she'll put the flame out, but most of the time there is a reigniting. And with your life path, this reigniting of a flame is possibly due with hormones or anything having to do with the reproductive system, medically speaking. Let me know how things are going with you, Scorpio and Scorpio risers. And if you need an added touch, you need someone to talk to, some guidance, double click the link below and book a session with me. Good luck. Hello, my philosophical Sagittarius risers. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is taking place in your 10th house with the South Node. You are reflecting on people from your past with work and the networking that you have going on with work. The sun is shining in the 4th house of home with your mom, family, genealogy, land, real estate. The sun is in conversation with Saturn, and Saturn brings slowdowns, especially when it has to do with water, healthcare. Juno is transiting in either your 12th or your first house. Once Juno comes into the first house, Juno is about your life path. There will be a relationship to accompany you with your endeavors, and it's a higher learning. Maybe you want to go to school and get a higher learning, a higher education. Your second house of values is where Cupid is. This is where the responsibility and accountability is with money, things that you own, things that you hold in possession, your values. Pluto and Pallas is shaking things up with your communications and your siblings, your childhood friends. There's a transformation that has taken place in the future with groups and siblings. Vesta has this flame of life that is reigniting in your 12th house, and it's about the past and other people's money, hidden taxes. Mars in the 8th house is driving a lot of action, whether it be with the reproductive system or their prostate. Mars is bringing in a lot of action at home with other people's money. Jupiter is expanding communications with your relationships and your partnerships. There's a lot of things going on with your relationship, especially having to do with communications. Uranus is shaking things up with your money, with your pocketbook, and the 6th house of health, your everyday, with your job. It is possible that these networks that you have are helping to aid in bringing in more money, because the dark moon is sitting there in that 11th house. And there's a disordered aggression that you're having with relationships and how you bring in money. If you need further clarity about your relationships, about how you are bringing in money, double click the link below and book a session with me. Good luck. Capricorn risers, hello. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be taking place in your 9th house of higher learning, long travels. It's possible that you are reflecting on a school that you've been to, going back to school, getting you a certificate, getting your further education for your work, whatever you are doing at work, because in your 10th house, that is where the disordered aggression is. That is where the dark moon is. And it's about relationships. It's about contracts. The dark moon wants to push you forward with work. It could be that you are working with people that are disabled or people that are in hospice, because the dark moon is representation of the darkness, the things that we are not seeing clearly. The 11th house is a reigniting of a flame with Vesta and how you bring in money with other people's money, other people's resources, shared resources. Maybe you'll get a student loan. Maybe you'll get a gift from a family member. The 12th house is showing that there is a relationship from the past. There is a divine justice from the past. It could have to do with a long travel, a ticket. Your values are being transformed with groups. There's a wake-up call, a little shaky shake that you get with some money. The sun is shining in that 3rd house of communications and siblings, your childhood friends, the way that you communicate and think. And it would appear that there is going to be communications having to do with prisons and hospitals. The 4th house of home is where you are sharing pain with your mom, with the home, with the lineage, genealogy. Jupiter is expanding that 6th house of health, your job, your everyday. Got a lot of luck going on with that Jupiter in the 6th house of health, expanding relationships with work. The 7th house of relationships with your mom, with your mom's family. There's a lot of drive there with Mars in the 7th house of relationships and partnerships. Maybe you are working from home or you are working at other people's homes, but whatever it is, There's a lot of drive there with Mars in that 7th house. And whatever ascendant degree that you have, Mars could oppose that ascendant degree. Not for a long time, but long enough to feel it, feel a little opposition. So be careful when you're driving on the interstate. Mars can sometimes represent a vehicle, could represent a relationship and their vehicle. So be mindful. If you'd like to know more, just reach out to me and visit my stand store. Good luck. Hello, Aquarius risers. This full moon, this lunar eclipse is going to be transiting in your 8th house of shared resources, death, rebirth, regeneration. This is where you are reflecting. This is where you've been. The North Node, the Sun, Saturn, that is all in your 2nd house. It's about your values, things that you own. There's a slowdown. It's requiring a lot of work to reach your goals, your future goals. Pluto and Pallas is shaking things up and transforming your future. There's a lot of transformation, and you are being asked to be a leader for the humanitarian causes. Your friend group, the way that you bring in money, there's a relationship and there's a divine justice, which you know, and Astria, they're in the 11th house, requiring a higher learning with how you are bringing in money. Vesta in the 10th house is reigniting a flame with shared resources, with work, with your father, with your public image. There's a lot of disordered aggression going on with the law, with the relationships, with the contracts, as the dark moon is in transit in your 9th house. A higher learning, other cultures, immigration. The 6th house of health and your everyday, your work. That's where Mars is in transit in Cancer. Mars in Cancer is requiring a lot of action in your everyday. It could have to do with your vehicle. Maybe your vehicle's in the shop, and that is creating money issues. Mars is definitely requiring a lot of responsibility, independence with your job. Maybe you will be working from home soon. Jupiter in the 5th house of Gemini is expanding communications with children, with the way that you create, with real estate. Uranus in the 4th house of home is shaking things up at home, having to do with things that you own, things of value, with groups. There's pain being shared because Chiron is in that 3rd house of communications. There's pain being shared with your communications, with your siblings, with your childhood friends. That's where you are communicating. That's what you're thinking about, with Venus and Mercury being there in the 3rd house of communications. No matter what, just know that this is a transformative time period for you, Aquarius and Aquarius risers. It's very transformative when it comes to networking and groups, your hopes and your wishes. Just remember, you got this. You got this. And if you need to talk to someone, if you need to book a session, click the link below. Good luck. Pisces risers. This lunar eclipse, this full moon in Virgo, is going to be in transit in your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. It's totally possible that you are reflecting on these relationships and their health. It's very intense. You've been here before. Your 1st house is full. It is so full. The Sun, Ceres, Saturn, Neptune, the North Node, all in your 1st house. All about your life path, Pisces risers. Limiting you with spirituality, with God, nirvana, your idealism. Could be with escapism. Pluto and Pallas is transforming your dream state, shaking things up. lots of intuitive downloads you're receiving, Pisces risers, and I'm sure it's very hard to deal with. Your 10th house is showing a divine justice with Astrea, with Juno. There is a relationship, there's a divine justice, there's a higher learning when it comes to work. Your father, the courts, your grandparents. Maybe you've got a relationship that is overseas, or maybe you are talking with someone in another country. Could have to do with other cultures. There's a reigniting of a flame with Vesta in the 9th house, with other people's money, with shared resources. Could be about school. But there's a disordered aggression that is showing up in the 8th house of death and rebirth. And it's about the government, it's about laws, the justice system. And that dark moon is wanting to push you forward into giving service to those that are in need. Communications are getting better. These communications about your values and how you're bringing in money, it's getting better. Chiron being here and sitting here in your 2nd house of values for a long time, but with Venus in retrograde, Mercury here also about to be in retrograde, there's communications. There is communications that is about the past that will help you with your values, the things that you own, the things that you possess. Communications is definitely shaking things up with your health, with your siblings. Could be that there's things going on with the hormones of your siblings or your childhood friends, things going on with the ears, nose, and throat. Money is definitely coming in with communications, especially online networking. Jupiter is expanding your home with communications. So if you are working from home, good job. And if not, consider working from home, because Jupiter with Pisces rising is in the 4th house in Gemini. And so there's a lot of optimism. There's a lot of wealth that can be had here at home in the 4th house, especially with communications. Mars in the 5th house, home in Cancer. This 5th house in Cancer, Mars, is calling on your children to be independent. It is calling on you to be independent from your children as well. Try not to be impatient with your children. With Mars here, it can be difficult. No matter what is going on, you're not alone. And if you need help, double click the link below and book a session with me. Good luck. All right, guys, this concludes my reading for the full moon in Virgo and the lunar eclipse that is taking place on March 13th and 14th. Feel free to reach out to me and book a session through my Stan store. Until next time, peace out.